I don't find the recordings helpful because if you're listening to the class, let's say you missed the class, then you're listening to some people in the class mispronouncing and being corrected. I think it's even better just to go to the, what is it, the Behrman, whatever, and listen.
Well, that's a very good resource. That's why I send you all of these other links that for the same amount of time you might spend, I think you'll get more out of the links
I
than
think
you
so.
will listening to an hour of me correcting people.
Right.
But, it depends on what your style is and how you like to do it. So, but I spend a lot of time looking for those links. Behrman is easy to find, but there are other ones that I share with everybody that are chanted and, other things that I find should help you simulate being in a service, at a synagogue and keeping up and following along.
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, I agree. The links were good though, because I listened to those.
Yes.
So, yeah. We wish that Behrman had more stuff in it, but you have to pay to get more stuff, I think. You can pay and get all kinds of things from Behrman, but we're just accessing the free stuff.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're going to wait another half a minute or so. This is even smaller than last week.
Everybody.
I don't know.
Wow.
My morning class joked with me. I mentioned to them how much smaller this class, attendance was last week. And they're like, yeah, we're paying people to come to our class so that each one of us reads less frequently because there's more of us.
It was a nice class because that's what, I was in it last week. It's a nice group.
It's a very nice group. We know each other by now. We've been together a while. So they know each other. They worry about each other. They congratulate each other. It's very nice.
Yeah, I was in that class one week and I was supposed to be in it for 2 and forgot the first one.
Well, and a very dear friend of mine, Mary Ellen, she and I are very close in the class. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, how are you, Rachel?
Good. How are you? Hi, Sivian.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Good to see everyone. Okay. So let me see. We're just missing, we might just get going. This is our usual crew. So
Yeah, Marcy.
Sandy said she's out of town, so we don't need to wait for that. Give me 1 second. Dry throat. Okay. So last week we did the Amidah, the Musaf Amidah with part of the Kedusha. And I talked quite a bit about that the Kedusha for the Musaf part of the Shabbat morning service is different from the Kedusha for Shacharit on Shabbat or the Kedusha for the rest of the week. And today I want to go into that in a little more detail. Okay, good. Let's see. Excellent. Sherry's coming.
Sherry.
So, hi, Sherry.
hi.
My phone thought I said that name that you don't want to say. I'm not saying it again. Anyway, okay. So we were talking about the Amidah and the 3 different sections, the first blessing, the second blessing, and then primarily we were going into the Kedusha. And in the Ein Keloheinu book, units 8 and 9, he goes into the explanation of the difference, and I'm going to cover it generally, but he gets into more detail. The difference between the Kedusha of the Musaf service and the Kedusha of the Shacharit service.
What page did you say in Ein Keloheinu?
I just said units 8 and 9. I didn't say the page.
Oh,
'cause
okay,
I don't know
okay.
what page, but I know it's units 8 and 9. He goes into a lot of detail about this. So, so as I've said before, the Shabbat morning service has this extra service, the Musaf service, and it lengthens the service quite a bit. And, you know, the rabbis felt that it's Shabbat. You're not working. What else you have to do? You should be here and we should pray together and exalt in all of these wonderful thoughts and ideas. So, and that is one of the reasons why I think the Kedusha in the Musaf service is different. But there's another very important reason. And I mentioned to you that the Kedusha in the Musaf service includes another recitation of the Shema, which it doesn't have when it's said at other times during the service. In the Shachrit part of the service, you don't recite the Shema again during the Kedusha. And what Rabbi Golinkin points out is that back in ancient times when our people were in the vast minority, right? And we were under the rule of others who did not like the fact that we were others. They would send spies to our prayer services. And the spies didn't really understand what we were saying. They didn't know our prayers and our language, but they understood the Shema. And the Shema was something that was very specific to Israelites. And it was a very strong sign, right, of our belief in only one God. It was our prominent kind of marker. And so in the early part of the service, we don't really say the Shema. We're not going to repeat it multiple times. But by the time they got to the Kedusha, apparently the Musaf service, the spies had left. They had had enough. They weren't going to be there for however many hours we were going to be there, right? They're like, yeah, we checked in, everything was fine. So when you get to the Musaf Amidah, they add a Shema back in. And if you think about how the Kedusha is choreographed with the notion of the angels above and the angels on the ground and the leader being one and the congregation being the other and the back and forth. And then you have this exultant and triumphant Shema that they say together, because now those spies are out of the way and now we can be who we really are. I really like the way Golinkin points that out, and it certainly makes a lot of sense to me. So today I wanted us to do both the Shachrit Kedusha and then the Musaf Kedusha, which we didn't do last week. We were just working on the Musaf one. So I want you to turn in your books. I have all the page numbers, I hope, for the different books. So if you have Lev Shalem, that's the red one, I want you to turn to page 161. If you have Sim Shalom, the blue book, the older blue book, I want you to turn to page 356. And on either, and then if someone has yet a different book, tell me, but it should say Kedusha on your pages, on the top of the page, either book, it says Kedusha in English. Is everyone seeing that?
Yes.
Oh, I have,
What book do you have? Do you have the other Sim Shalom, Sabian?
yes,
Okay, hold on, I have the page. Don't worry, I have that page too. I just
I
have
have
to
it.
look on my, just give me a second. Shachrit, Amidah, Kedusha. Look at 124.
okay, 120.
That works.
Okay, I wrote down all of them, so I couldn't remember which class had which books.
120. Ken, yes,
Okay, you see it? The
Yes.
Kedusha. Okay. So, all right. So as you recall, this is the third section of the Amidah. We start out with the usual Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak, right? That's the beginning paragraph. Then we move on. Atah gibor leolam Adonai mechayim etin atah rav lehoshia mechalkel chaim bechesed, right? That's the second part. Then we get to the Kedusha. Okay, so here we are. So we're going to read this together. Karen, will you start?
Nachdish et
Okay, slow down. So that the first word under the nun is a shva for, so it's a silent, so it's just n. And then under the kuf is a single horizontal line for ka, for ah.
Nekadesh.
There you go, nekadesh.
Kadesh et Shimcha
Yes,
Ba'olam
yeah,
B'Shem Shemakdishim
beautiful.
Oto Bishmei Marom.
Very nice. Stop right there. You did very nicely. Nekadesh et Shimcha Ba'olam Kashem Shemakdishim Oto Bishmei Marom. Very nice. Marcia, will you continue?
Katuv al yad nevi'echa v'kara zeh el zeh v'amar.
Very good. Now, so I think you said kakatuv, but I'm going to review. Kakatuv al yad nevi'echa v'kara zeh el zeh v'amar. Very nice. Okay. Lorraine, will you read the next line?
Kadosh, 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 Adonai, Tzevaot, Milo, Chal, Haaretz, Kavodo.
Beautiful. So here, the leader would have done the first three lines. At least it's three lines in my book. So the leader would do Nekadesh et Shimcha Ba'olam Kashem Shemati Shioto Vishmei Maron Kakatu al Yad Neviecha V'Kara Zeh El Zeh Ve'amar. And the congregation would do together Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzvaot Melech Haaretz Kavodo. And then the reader would repeat what we just did together and then continue. Okay. So Sivi Ann, will you continue?
Az B'kol Ra'ash Gadol Adir. Ez
So, so
wait,
it's
ha zak
exactly v'chazak. Beautiful.
v'hazak mashi mi'im
Mashmi'im.
mashmi'im kol matna sa'im.
So slow down. So the last word you just said,
Meat na sa'im.
meet nasim, essentially.
Meat nasim.
There you go.
Meat
That's
nasim.
Exactly. Very good. Keep going.
Leumat
Mhm.
sarafim.
So do that one a little more smoothly. Put this with the ra.
Srafim.
Srafim. Exactly. Srafim.
Srafim. Leumatam Baruch Yomeru.
Very good. Excellent. I'll just read it over, but you did really well. Az b'kol ra'ash gadol adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol mitnasim le'umat srafim le'umatam baruch yomeru. And then the congregation sings together this next one. Sherry, will you read for us? You have to unmute first.
Baruch Kavod Adonai Mim
Mimkomo.
Exactly. Baruch kavod Adonai mimkomo. The congregation would do it together. Then the reader would repeat that line, and then we would continue. The reader would continue. Susan, will you continue?
Yes, wait a minute. Minko Maha
Mhm.
Malkenu Tofia
Mhm.
Vitim Loch
Yep.
Alenu Ki Kim Anachnu Lach.
Perfect. Lovely. Thank you. Karen, will you continue the next sentence?
Matai Timloch Butzion
Mhm.
Mikrov
B-
Mikarov
b. There's a
oh
b.
Bekarov Menu Leolam Vaed
One more.
Tish
Yeah.
Tish Cone.
Cone. Tish cone. Very good. Okay. The next line, Marcia.
Tit gadal, v'tit kadash, v'tok, v'rushalayim, ivricha, irka.
Perfect. Thank you. Good correction. Lorraine, will you continue?
Lidor, Vador, Ulnetzach, Nitzachim, the Enenu, Tir Ena,
Mhm.
Malhutecha.
Lovely. Really well done. Sherry, will you unmute and continue?
Kadavar ha'amur bishirei udak
So that's a Zion in
al
the middle.
yadad.
No, so slow down. That word there, it starts
So-
with an ayin with 3 dots. So oo, then it has a Zion with 3 dots. So ignore the dot in the middle of the Zion. That is just a pronunciation mark. Okay.
Uzecha
Uzecha, exactly.
al yadei davir
David.
meshaha
That's two dollars.
David.
David.
David Mishaha
It starts with a mem.
Ziraka
Slow the word
Okay.
after David starts with a mem.
Mish Vashi
So hold on.
Vashiha
So this is the word where this is the combination where if you have a chet with an a under it at the end of a word, you invert it. So Mashiach.
Mashiach Zid Kadeka.
Added a little to it. Sid
Oh, that's wrong.
kecha. Sid kecha.
Zid Heka.
Okay.
Zid Heka.
Sid kecha. It's 3 syllables. Sid ke.
Zid Heka.
Yes. So, and the word,
Zid Heka.
yes, very good. And the word Mashiach, you know,
Mashiach.
is like the Mashiach, right? This is the,
Yeah.
right. Okay. So I'll read over this. I'll read it back to you all. Kadavar ha'amor b'shirei uzecha al yedei David Mashiach tzid kecha. The last line, Sivian, will you read?
Yimloch Adonai Leolam Elohayich Zion Vador Vador Hallelujah.
Very nice. And that usually the congregation would do out loud. Okay. Susan, will you do the next line?
L'dor vador nagi gadlecha ul ul netzach
Mhm.
netzachim
Beautiful.
kedushat wait a minute, kedushat
Perfect. Yes.
nagidish
Nakdish.
nakdish
Perfect. Okay.
Veshiva Veshiv ha ha.
Yep.
You want me to go on?
Yeah. Why don't you go to the comma?
Eloheinu mi pinu
Mm-hmm.
lo yam mush
Mm-hmm.
leolam vaed.
Excellent. Thank you. Karen, will you go on?
Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata.
Okay. Next line.
Baruch ata Adonai hamlecha
Mm.
hakadosh.
Oh, you skipped a line. So the line above that in my book, Baruch
Oh.
atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You see that line?
Baruch ata Adonai. No.
I don't know.
Baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
Yes, that line.
Okay.
That's it. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. And then, yes, you're right. Baruch atah Adonai hamelech hakadosh, which we only say on Shabbat Shuvah, which is the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Okay, so give me 1 second. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 more second. I have so many versions of this that I have noted. Well, that's not the one I want either. Oh, Barron House. Oh, here is the one I want. Did we do? Yes, this is the one I want. Okay, so give me 1 second to get this. Oh, this is it. Okay, I do have this up. Oh, okay. So, oh, it's not the one I wanted after all, is it? No, that's not it. All right, well, we're going to do this one. All right, I apologize for, I'm going to share my screen. It's that time. Clicking on the wrong things. Here we go. Okay, so I shared this with you, I think. This is the Behrman House one, and we can listen to them read it to us. So I think I sent this to you last week without pointing out that this is the shorter Kedusha, the Kedusha from the Shachrit Amidah, not the Musaf Amidah. So I apologize if I didn't explain that properly, but now you know. I've gone over it in a lot of detail, and I'm going to have it read to us. Here we go.
נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות. מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים. קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You know, I just realized that, so I think that's the Kedusha not for Shabbat though, because she skips a bunch of things. I just realized that we have, because the two versions we're looking at, whether it's Shachrit or Musaf, they're both for Shabbat. And that is obviously not the Shabbat version. So it leaves out several lines. But nevertheless, it's still excellent, obviously, for her to read to us. Okay, so there's another, that's not what I need. So this one, all right, so I don't have the Shachrit. So typically, at least in the services I'm used to going to, the Shachrit Amidah, which is which is done early in the service, is usually not the cantor chanting, at least at my services. It's usually a member of the congregation who does Pesukei de Zimra and might do Shachrit. And they don't drag out this or do a repetition usually of the Shachrit Amidah. They're usually getting, they're just moving on page after page, they're moving through. And so they don't do melodic melodies where, there's a lot of back and forth with the congregation and a lot of repetition. And, like, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador, Ledor Vador, Nagi Galacha. They don't tend to do that in Shachrit. Yes, Susan.
Ours does.
Really? They drag it out in morning?
And they do it in Musaf.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, they might
It's
sometimes.
it's the tradition of the synagogue.
Yeah, well, and we might, I think I could be, but they still tend to move at a faster pace in my shul with Shachrit Amidah than they do with the Musaf Amidah. So
Yeah, ours is reversed. Rabbi will he usually shortens the Musaf one.
oh, that's so interesting. The only time we tend to shorten the Musaf one is if there was a long Torah portion and a long Haftorah and maybe an Ufruf and maybe a baby, maybe different things happening. And then they realize, oh my goodness, look what time it is.
Rosh Hodesh.
Yeah, exactly. And then they get to the point where they say, oh my goodness, we're not going to be at Kiddush on time. So then they speed it up a little bit, So, but what I have found, it tends to be the case is that the Musaf one is where you'll have tunes that are very repetitive. Everyone joins in and it kind of becomes really a sing-along. I don't know how else to put, right? Because there's back and forth and everything. And so anyway, that's my perspective on that. Okay, so let's now move to the Musaf Amidah, which now I lost my page. So I'm gonna holler out the pages for that one. So in the Sim Shalom, it's going to be page 430. The Kedusha being on, that's what it begins on 430. The Kedusha is on 432. In Lev Shalem, 185, with the Kedusha on 187, I think. Yes. In the smaller Sim Shalom, oh my goodness. Page 156A. And then probably page 157, I imagine, for the Kedusha.
Kedusha, 157.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marcy, which book are you using? Are you still using the small version? Oh, you got a big one. You got your Lev Shalem big one. All right.
I had my sisterhood board meeting on Tuesday and I went to the gift shop afterwards and bought one.
Excellent. Okay, so you want to be on page 187.
185.
Well, that's the beginning of the 185 is where the Musaf Amidah starts. But we did the first couple paragraphs last week, and I think you all read them very smoothly, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Eloheinu Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov, right? And I apologize that we didn't do it with the imachot because as I recall, not everyone had a book that had that in it. So we just did the avot, just the patriarchs, not the matriarchs. But, okay, but we're going to look at page 187. We're going to do the Kedusha. And this is the longer form Kedusha with the Shema. Okay, so you'll see it starts completely differently. The beginning words are completely different. Naritzcha. What? Okay, that's not the word we had last time, right? Last time we had the word nikadesh. This is the word na'aritzcha. So just point that out. Okay, so let's see. Marcy, you haven't read. Can I call on you to read?
Like,
Okay, at top of page 187, read the top line.
okay, Naharitza,
So slow down. So,
Naharitza,
Na'aritza.
Na'aritza, Na'aritza.
That's it.
Woo! Vinakdisha,
Yes.
Kosed,
So look at under
Kosod,
Kasod.
Kosod,
Yes.
Shia,
The dot is on the left. So
Yeah.
it's an S, not a SH.
Siah.
Siach, you were right before.
Siach.
Siach.
I was right first. Siah. Sarfe,
Mhm.
Kidosh,
The dot. So there's a dot.
Kodesh.
Kodesh. Thank you. Yes. So the line under the kuf is just a pronunciation mark. It's not a vowel. And the
Okay.
vowel is that dot in the upper left.
Hamak Dishim.
Exactly. Good. All right. I'm going to read it back. Na'aritzcha benak dishcha kasod siach sarfei kodesh hamak dishim. Okay.
And because you so nicely told us about the Yud Hey, I did it right. So thank you for that from last week.
Oh, that's what I'm here for. Okay. Sivian, will you read the next line?
Simcha, Bakodesh, Kakatuv, Al Yad, Navi Echa,
So under the nun is
N,
n.
N.
Right. There we go.
Vi Echa,
There you go.
Kara, Ze, El Ze, the Amar.
Exactly. So that line is almost the same, is virtually the same as what we had in the Shacharit one, although our first line was not. And this line is exactly the same, right? Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzebaot, Melo, Chol Haaretz, Kivodo. Identical to what we had before. So then we're going to pick up below that. Lorraine, will you read?
Kivodo Male Olam Mishar Tav She'oalim
So do
Ze
that word, do that word again.
Shoalim
There it is. Show Alim. Yes.
Ze Laze.
Very nice. Thank you. Lorraine, I'm sorry, Marcia, will you go next?
Aye, Makom, Kavodo, La'umatam, Baruch, Yomeru.
Perfect. Thank you. And this line is the same. Baruch Kavod Adonai Mim Komo, right? Excellent. Repeats. Okay. Sherry, will you read the next line?
Mimkomo hu yifen barakamim vayahan.
No, try again. But slow down. So the word right after the comma starts with a vav with a shva under it. So it's v.
Yahon
Perfect.
Hamayahadim
So say that one
Sham-
smooth. Say that one. Yeah.
Shamu. What?
So after say then you sounded it out, but now pronounce it smoothly.
Hamiyachadim,
Hamiyachadim, exactly.
Yeah.
Shemo,
Mhm.
Erev,
Erev. Mhm.
Should I go to the comma
Yes, please.
or? Va, Yava,
Mm.
Kav,
Try again. So it starts out va, and then the vet.
Va,
So the vowel for the vet is the
Vet.
dot in the upper left corner.
oh, okay.
The line under it is just a
Uh,
pronunciation mark.
Vavoker,
Vocare, yes.
Vakol Yom, Tamid,
Tamid, stop right there. Excellent, Tamid. Okay, so I'll just review it with you guys. Mimkomo, hu yifen barachamim, vayachon, v'yachon, hamyachadim, shemo, erev, vavoker, v'chol yom, tamid. Okay? Karen, will you pick up after that comma right there?
Pa'amim.
You left out a syllable.
Pa'amim. Oh,
Mhm.
ma'im.
There it is, pa'amayim.
Okay, ba'ahava, shema, omrim.
Exactly. And then here we have the Shema, right? So keep going, yeah.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Perfect, thank you. Okay. Susan, will you continue?
Hu Eloheinu, hu Avo,
Mm,
hu Avinu,
mhm.
hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, Vahu Yashmienu, Barachamim,
Look at it again.
Barachaman.
Mav. It ends with a vav.
Oh,
A mav.
right, Mav. Shenit, La'aneh,
The ain.
La'aneh,
There it is.
Kol Ach, or no, Kol Ha,
Kol chai.
Chai.
There it is. Okay, stop right there. Very nice. I'm just going to go over it. Hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, v'hu Yashmienu, barachamav shenit le'ene kol chai. Okay, Sibi Ann, will you continue?
Li ho yot.
So so it's li hiyot.
Li hiyot.
Yes.
2 dots. Okay.
Right, because the lamed has the 1 dot li, and then the hey, even though it has the 2 dots under it, has that yud too. Li hiyot.
Li hiyot. Lachem.
Mhm.
Le o. Le. La. Le.
No, they-
No, le lo him.
Exactly. Okay, keep going.
Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Very nice. Good. Stop right there. Okay. Marcy, will you pick up?
Uvdiv Ray Kadoshka.
So,
Kadoshka.
I was actually calling on Marcy. Marcia,
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Can we let Marcy? Yeah, she needs a turn.
Uv Ray.
So that's a vet. So they're both vets. Uv, div, ray.
Oh, that's what I said. Uv
Oh,
Ray.
I misheard you. I'm sorry.
Okay. Kadosha.
So now this is tricky. The dot for the shin is not a vowel.
Kadshacha.
Kad shacha, perfect. Because
Okay.
that first dalet has the shava under it. The dot is not its vowel. You understand that?
Got it.
Got it. Good.
Batuv.
So that's not a bet, that's a kaf. So katuv.
Oh, Katuv.
Yep,
Okay. Leomar.
lemor,
Lamor.
right. So I'm just gonna read it back to you. Uvdivrei kadshecha katuv lemor. That one's a little tricky, so thank you.
Do you want me to read the next line?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Yimlo Adonai Leolam.
So the first word, do it one more time.
Yimloch Adonai Leolam
Yes.
Elo Chai.
So the,
Elo Chai.
yes, keep going. Hi. So hold on. You have
Sion.
to slow down. We didn't finish the word that starts Elohai. So Elohai. Elohai. Hayich.
Hayich.
You see
Okay.
it? Because the yud has its own vowel, and then you have the chaf sofit.
Okay. I was giving the wrong sofit. I was doing the sound.
Okay, well, I didn't catch that.
Okay. Sion, Lador Vador, Hallelujah.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll just read these two together.
Okay.
Uvdivrei kadshecha katuv lemor yimloch Adonai leolam Elohayich Sion Lador Vador Hallelujah. Good. Okay. And continuing on, Lorraine, I feel like I skipped you in this part. I'm not sure if I did or not, but would you continue?
Sure, but I don't feel skipped.
Oh, thank you.
Lador, Vador, Nagi, Gadlecha,
Yes.
Unetzach, Nitzachim, Kedusha, Shatech,
Yes.
Nak. Continue?
Yeah, one more word.
Beshiv Ha.
No, I'm sorry. Maybe you finished to the comma and I didn't hear it. So
Oh, Nakdish.
nakdish, that was, yes, I didn't hear that word. Perfect. You did really nicely. My last class struggled with a bunch of these words. I'm going to read it back. Ledor vador nagi gadlecha ol netzach nitzachim kedushat cha nakdish. Very nice. Okay. Marsha, will you continue?
Veshiv Hakav Eloheinu Mipinu Lo Yomush Leolam Voed.
Lovely. Perfect. Thank you. Karen, will you go?
He El Melech Gadol V'Kadosh Ata.
Perfect. Susan, will you continue?
Baruch atah Adonai Hamelech Hakadosh. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el Hakadosh.
That's interesting. You have them in the reverse order of my book, but doesn't matter. That's the two blessings at the bottom. And this is the second time I've noticed. They reverse them depending on which book you're in. Same bracha. Perfect. That was, you guys did great. Okay, so now I am going to share my screen and we're going to have a lovely, I don't know if he's a chazan or a rabbi, it doesn't matter, but he's going to chant and explain how he, so when I say explain, I believe he includes some choreography with this, okay? But he does a beautiful job and we are going to listen. Everyone, so back at starting at the beginning, Na'arit Tzacha, okay?
Or the Musaf Kedusha, since I'm already established a pattern of being inconsistent, I might as well just stick with it, since everybody calls it the Kedusha, that's what we're going to call it. Now, there's a lot of
He's making the distinction between the way you would say the Hebrew word is Kedusha, but he's saying Kedusha, right? That's the emphasis is on the wrong syllable, but we get that. Okay.
things going on. There's choreography, there's different melodies that you can use. I'm going to do it in one particular way that I know the congregation here knows, but obviously there are so many different possibilities here. I'm just going to present it as simply as possible. And then if you know other ways of doing it, if you hear other ways of doing it, let me know. I also know other ways, but I'm going to keep it simple right here. So we're going to start with the Na'aritzcha up here. And we're going to start with what is probably the most commonly known melody to this, even though there are people out there that that don't like it because it's old. But you know what? It's an oldie but a goodie, and people do like it. And ultimately, we're out here trying to get people to participate. So if you know of a melody you think what people will like better, sei gesund. Don't be bashful as long as it fits the words and doesn't make mincemeat of them. All right, so I'm going to stick with the tried and true for this tutorial. So let's get started. It goes like this. Na'aritzcha v'nakdishecha kesotziach sarfei kodesh hamakdishim shimcha b'kodesh kakatuv al yad neviecha v'kara ze'el ze'be'amar. And generally, you'll pause here at this line. The congregation will chant this line. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melech Kol Haaretz Kevodo. And you'll repeat it. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melech Kol Haaretz Kevodo. And of course, as you say each Kadosh, 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 you'll rise on your tippy toes. Okay? Then we continue with, I continue with Nusach here at Kevodo, although there are plenty of opportunities for melodies if you know something there. So here's what I do. Kevodo alei olam, mesharet havsholim ze laze, hayi mekom kevodo. Leumatan Baruch Yomeru. And the congregation will come in with Baruch Kivod Adonai Mim Mekomo. Make sure you say Mim Mekomo, because nobody else will. So if the congregation says that, you'll repeat it. Baruch Kivod Adonai Mim Mekomo. And here's a little melody that I like to use. It's a Karl Bach melody. It goes like this. Mi mekomo huifen berachamim meyachonam ha-meyachadim shemo erev vavoker bechol yom tamid. Hamayim beyama Shema Omerim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Abinu Hu Makeinu Hu Moshienu Yashmienu Berachamav Sheni Le'nei Kochai Yalaidi Dai 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 Lalaidi Dai 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 Lalaidi Dai 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 Lalaidi Dai 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 Dai. You could obviously continue with that nigun as long as you sense that the congregation is behind you, but I usually end it there. And then I will go into the Ahava Rabbah mode, which is a different mode of Nusach, right here with the words Liot Lachem Le'Elohim, right here. Liot Lachem Le'Elohim. And the congregation will chant Ani Adonai Elohechem, and you will chant Ani Adonai Elohechem, and keep going. Uvdivrei kodshecha katuv lemor. And then the congregation will chant Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohayich Tzion ledor vador. Hallelujah. Then you'll repeat Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohayich Tzion ledor vador. Hallelujah. And then you continue right in, continuing with Nusach. Ledor vador nagid godlecha. That's godlecha. Godlecha ulenetzach netzachim kedushatecha nakdish. Veshivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed. Ki el melech gadol vekadosh ata baruch ata Adonai. And you'll pause for them to say Baruch hu Baruch Shemo Ha'el HaKadosh.
Now, I think he's going to go on, which we have some time for. So is that all right if we continue? Okay, let's see where he's going. He should tell us.
You can do that, and then you'll be silent for the rest of the Amidah until we get to the Kaddish Shalem. Now, you can also sing songs here. You could sing Ledovador, Ledovador, Ledovador nagid godlecha, Ledovador, Ledovador, Ledovador nagid godlecha, ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish, kedushatecha nakdish. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדוב הדור, לדוב הדור, לדוב הדור נגיד גודלך, לדוב הדור, לדוב הדור, לדוב הדור נגיד גודלך. כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, וקדוש וקדוש אתה. כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, וקדוש וקדוש אתה. Then you go.
So here, he repeated Lador Vador so many times, and he did that whole first stanza, as it were. And then when he skipped down to Ki El Melech, and I assume that now that you guys know how to read that, you also could follow him. Am I right about that? When he skipped down, you could figure that out. Yeah, and that's the point of us learning together slowly, you recognizing the words so that when the leader might repeat, and then he finishes the line, repeat. Now he's down to a different line. You can keep up. So let's see what he does next.
Right into Nusach Baruch Ata Adonai Baruch hu Baruch Shemo Ha'el HaKadosh. And that's another good way to do it. A melody that people really like to sing, at least in my congregation. You might find some people that think that's an old-fashioned melody and they don't like it. But again, we're all about getting people involved, and in this particular congregation, that works. So a couple other things I want to point out here. You'll notice that I sang straight through this line. I did not stop and let the congregation chant this. And the reason why is because I wanted to continue the song. I want to continue the nigun that I started at Mi Makomo. I did not want to stop. Now, if you wanted to stop and let people chant that responsively, meaning they chant it first and then you can repeat it after them, there are ways to do that, but I'm not going to go through that right now. You may find that this is an inconsistency that you can't hang with, and if that's the case, I accept that. I accept the charge. Again, I'll just reiterate that my reason for doing so is because I like to keep the flow going and I don't like to interrupt it because usually I do like to sing this in the same melody. And well, that's it. Don't have to apologize anymore. So finally, the one thing that you notice here, we've got another Shabbat Shuvah insertion, Baruch Atah Adonai HaMelech HaKadosh. You would say that in place of Ha'el HaKadosh, if you happen to be leading the service on the Shabbat between Yom Kippur, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Otherwise, this line here is not relevant for you, okay? So after Ha'el HaKadosh, you're going to go into the silent part of the Heicha Kedusha, which means that the congregation is doing this all together. And the first three blessings, I should say, and the Kedusha is the third blessing. And then the congregation, you and the congregation are going to continue the Amidah in silence. And so there is no full repetition when you're doing it this way. Okay. You will also do the Kedusha when you're doing it.
Right, enough of him. He's lovely, but enough of him. Okay. So I think I mentioned, maybe I didn't mention, I actually am going to be away next week. I am finally traveling for the first time since 2 years ago or more. Going to New York City to visit my sister and my daughter, a place that is very highly vaccinated. So anyway, so I won't be here next Friday. I will send you, and I did send you last week, a lot of places to practice this Musaf Amidah. I will send them again. What I would like to do is turn our attention to Ashrae. Ashrae is a very challenging prayer. I feel very strongly that you all should become familiar with it. So we're going to start Ashrae in 2 weeks. We're not going to finish it. It's a long, challenging prayer. And we're going to take a break from it, and we're going to do some Passover things. So because I feel strongly that before Passover, you guys should feel comfortable with a Haggadah and reading the brachot that we do only at Passover, the 4 questions, the order of the Seder, the Kiddush. This year, we start Passover on Friday night, so the Shabbat Kiddush for the Seder. So in 2 weeks, please have a Haggadah. I'll probably share my screen, but if you have a Haggadah, it might be easier. Do all of you have access to a Haggadah?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay. So
I have a question.
Sure. Yes.
I mean, I have numerous Haggadot. Which is there a preference as to which one you would like us to have for that?
Honestly, it shouldn't, because of what we're doing such basic stuff. I imagine the Hebrew is in there in any version you happen to pick up. So my suggestion to you would be pick up the one that has large enough print for you to read it smoothly, and that you feel is a good one to read from. But I'll probably share my screen as well. But I will tell you a very quick story. I just finished writing a new family Haggadah for my family. I started last year right after the last Seder, because even though my sisters and we've been using the same Haggadah since I was a very tiny child. It's the only, we have many others, but this is the one we like. This is the one we use, right? Both my children are not keen on this Haggadah. And I want a Haggadah, since they're the next generation, I want a Haggadah that they like better. So I wrote one. I sent it to my sister. She's going to review it. We're going to, between the two of us, finalize it. And we're going to have a new family Haggadah this year. The thing that I don't like about all of the traditional Haggadot that I'm used to is none of them, for people who are not familiar with the Passover story, they don't understand. They don't find the through line through most Haggadot, right? Through most Seders. They're like, you know, you're saying this stuff and you're kind of jumping all over the place and you're repeating images, but I don't understand the story. So I just bought this lovely new Haggadah, which is 200 pages long. It's called Night of Beginnings, a Passover Haggadah by a woman named Marcia Falk, F-A-L-K. She is, I think, a poet. You can't see it, I'm sorry. Anyway, the reason I bought it is she has the Magid section of this. The Magid section is the retelling of the story of our exodus from Egypt, our bondage and our exodus. And her story literally starts at Exodus chapter 1, verse 8, and she picks up, she tells the story in a very cohesive, fluent way with the right portions that make it all sound like the story that you can understand. So my new family Haggadah is not going to be anywhere near 200 pages long, but the Magid section is going to be much more thorough and concise and understandable. And you don't have to get it from responsive readings or imagery. It's going to be a nice, clear story. So I feel like I've been living Passover for so many months now. It's crazy. But, and I literally, you know, probably use 10 different Haggadot to look at, to decide, because the language in the Haggadah that my family has used all these years, it's this Haggadah. I don't know if you, so it's really, because I have my screen thing on,
There.
for the American family. So I don't even know what year this first came out. 1963. So most recent edition is 1992, but they didn't change it any. But it has some very stilted, funny language, honestly. You know, the ram skipped like, you know, I can't remember exactly the phrase, but it's, you know, poetic kind of language that's a little out there. So I've tried to modernize it to make it easier for the younger people to embrace and feel like it makes, here, the mountains skip like rams, the hills like young sheep. What aileth thee, O thou sea, that thou fleest, thou Jordan, that thou turnest backwards? Ye mountains, that ye skip like rams, ye hills like young sheep. My husband was like, yeah, you're gonna take that out? I'm like, yeah, I'm taking that out, honey. So, but in my head, I hear my dad saying these because, you know, for so long, that's what happened. And it wasn't until that we started hosting here in my house in Chicago. And my dad said to my husband, your house, you lead. So anyway, but for all the years until then, is my dad's voice and my, you know, I just hear his intonation. Anyway. So it's going to be interesting for us this year. I hope. And I hope it's not too much. That's where my sister comes in. We can't make it super long or, you know, everybody complains.
Or you eat at midnight.
No, that we can't do that. We just can't do it. Especially, I mean, we have the next generation, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So
Right, we did too.
we can't do that. We can't, and I don't want them to just check out, you know, and say, bye, I'm done with this.
I know.
So, yeah. All right. And I don't
You've got new people for the 4 kashas, huh?
well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I assume the 7-year-old can do it. Otherwise, my 20-something-year-old son will do it.
Oh, my daughter did it at 3, I think.
Well, and I couldn't wait to do it. I'm the youngest of my sisters and I couldn't wait to do it. I was like, so let me do it already. But I also want to say that, so this Haggadah, that is my family one, English and Hebrew on the one side, complete Hebrew on the second. The second night in my family, we did the Hebrew only side because that's what my parents were used to. So that's when people say, how do you remember? How do you know? Because that's what I sat through. That's what I was used to. Susan, I'm sorry, you wanted to say something.
Oh, I just, my father taught me the 4 questions, I think when I was 3 or 4.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the 4 questions I just thought was so funny, and he would get very mad at me because I would start laughing. But
Well,
this is the Haggadah that I grew up with, and a cousin sent me mine.
Oh,
Our names were on them,
oh, wow.
and it's from 1958, and it's like yours. It has the important Hebrew prayers in the middle, but the front, it opens Englishly, and then it opens Hebrew, and this is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's exactly, it looks just like mine, just the color of the binding is different, but yeah, mine looks exactly like yours.
Nobody grew up with the
Maxwell House? So
we had the Maxwell House.
I have a stack of
Maxwell
Maxwell House, absolutely. We like
have
them better.
Our synagogue has bunches of the red and yellow ones.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, my
Well,
kids
so-
had that.
So in my morning class this morning, I had the same conversation with the ladies and had a show of hands. Does everyone have a Haggadah? One young woman, I call her young because I assume she's younger than me. She's not that, you know. Anyway, she's in the process of converting. She's in the Women's League bat mitzvah class, and she's in my Hebrew class, and she doesn't have a Haggadah. And she was like, where do I get one of those? I said, honey, give me your address. I'll mail you one. So I'm mailing her one of my many Haggadot. So in case she doesn't see it in the store but we all said, everyone said, go to a store that has a lot of kosher products for Passover. There'll be a box full of Maxwell House Haggadahs. Take it. It's free. Take it. So but I'm mailing her one. It's already addressed. It's sitting by the door. I'll go to the post office and mail it to her. And it's my pleasure to send her. I have stacks of Haggadot. And if I'm starting a new one, we're not going to be using those. We're going to start using my new one, which I have to get run off and stapled. And anyway, all right, ladies, that's what we'll be picking up with soon. Okay.